Draw! Welcome to Untap Upkeep. I'm Nick, and Jason, would you like to pay the 2, and the 4?
No. And I'm Jason, and I love sprites, spin downs, and spawn sire of Ulamog.
Cool, I get a treasure token, I get to draw a card, and I get to draw a card. Anyways, this is the Untap Upkeep podcast, and we are here with you today.
Our flavor text of the day comes to you from Ravnica Allegiance. It is Glass of the Guild Pact.
Counterbalanced forces sustain this city. No faction above others. A beautiful idea. Amara. Alright, so today we'd like to continue our discussion from last episode, which was the 10 guild combinations from Ravnica, and talking about strengths, weaknesses, deck building, how to improve them, etc.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much we're going to cover the remaining 5 on our list.
If you didn't watch the last podcast, I suggest you go watch it, because we're not going to go back to the other 5 that we talked about.
Yeah. But anyways, so let's get started. Alright, so the first one on my list for this episode is Azorius, the blue-white combination. Jason, how do you feel about Azorius?
I don't want to pay my taxes.
That's pretty much what Azorius is all about. It's all about control. Thematically, it's all about like laws and kind of just being the jerk at the table.
Yeah. I determine what is allowed.
Yeah, I set the precedent for this game. You want to do that? You have to give me this. No, you can't do that. That's countered. You can't play cards this turn. That's kind of Azorius. One of the... Everyone should probably know the most prominent Azorius commander, which is...
Asperia.
I was going to say Grand Arbiter... yes, Asperia. I mean, Asperia is a guild leader, so technically, fair enough. But anyways, so I think Azorius' strengths come in the fact that it does have that control element. I think of it like Dimir, but more fair. You generally play more board wipes.
I'm not gonna deal any cheap shots.
It's like, I'm not gonna let you set up your board and then destroy it. Like pick and choose, be like Dimir, which is like, oh, I counter or I don't, and then I let it hit the board and then I kill it. Azorius is more like, you want to play that? No, you don't. Mm-hmm. No, you can't. I say no. Or, no, put that back in your hand. That's pretty much the way that Azorius likes to play. So it has strengths from white having its kind of control-y stuff, like silence, or...
Roll of Law.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Or Spirit of the Labyrinth. Just...
You're like Norn's Annex.
Smothering Tithe, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But all the stuff that... Oh, and, like Ghostly Prison, that kind of stuff. Pretty much stuff that it's preventative measures. And then blue has, well... what blue does, which is draw and counter spells.
Bounce.
And bounce and all the tricky stuff.
Ristic Study.
So, together, the color combo is pretty strong, but sometimes it's kind of hard to win.
Yeah. I think it lacks a lot of big creatures, which quite a few of the other guilds we've talked about so far, and a couple that we will talk about, kind of win with just big stompy boys.
If it has green or red in it, it's probably going to have some form of big creature in it of some kind. But I would say that when you look at Azorius commanders, you get stuff that generally fit the same category, like Grand Arbiter, or Lavinia, either Lavinia, Azor, that kind of stuff.
I am the law.
And then you get this kind of interesting category that still keeps that control feeling, but does something completely different. The deck is built completely different. Like Noyandar, Afara, or Tygam, the blue-white Tygam, where you have a very specific game plan that involves a lot of control to make sure your game plan works, but it's not entirely built around, no, you can't do that.
And I think another strength that Azorius brings to the table is evasion. I think a lot of their creatures can become unblockable, or there are flyers. There's a lot of ways for creatures to get through for combat damage, and I think there's a lot of effects that, for example, like Biden of Thassa type effects in blue, that let you do things when you deal combat damage. And so I think that's how Azorius kind of likes to win sometimes, is just, I'm going to attack and you can't block.
There's also stuff like the Brago decks that like to abuse enter the battlefield triggers with like Cloud Blazer, for example, or Mold Drifter, that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of workaround when it comes to more, I guess, I wouldn't say combat based, but more tricky kind of.
Yeah. I would say blink packages are definitely an Azorius thing.
Yeah. So all in all, I think that Azorius is a good color. I don't really think you can fix it because it's strong. I mean, it's not that it's weak, it's that
I think if you had a couple more big creatures at the top end, and I mean Azorius has them. Like, it's not like Azorius is short on like big creatures at like the 7 mana, 8 mana cost.
True.
But I think you could go with just a couple more that aren't like game breaking, of course.
Because the thing is it has some of the best like staples in the game, like Swords of Plowshares, Path to Exile, Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, Wrath of God.
It can deal with stuff by just making it not exist.
And I think that Azorius, in that sense, is also one of the most unfun colors. And in that sense, I think it's really hard to break away from that. And I think the only way that Azorius, besides what Jason did for like quality of life changes, could make it a better color combo is if you made a different play style entirely. But that would involve bending color pie rules, or creating cards that were just busted on their own, and that is tricky. So I think that they should maybe throw a bone here and there, but not really tamper with the color combo too much.
Plus, if they try to break the color pie, then I could just break the color pie while still including all the good stuff from Azorius and make a super deck that you're not going to ever be able to beat.
That's true, and of course, if we hit 100 subscribers, I will eat the pie.
Yeah.
I will eat the bacon to a pie. I'm going to keep reminding you guys that I'm going to do it. I promise.
Hey, Nick, do you like death?
Yeah.
Do you like destruction?
Of course.
Do you like chaos?
Maybe.
Well, have I got the guild for you. It's Rakdos, the black-red deck. What Rakdos really likes to do is, I'm going to play cards. I don't know what's going to happen, but things are going to blow up. Things are going to explode.
It's party time.
I'm going to play some demons, maybe. And we're just going to have a nice little fun show, and magic is going to be crazy. And so I think what Rakdos likes to do is kind of play a little bit with RNG. I think there's a slight RNG element, although that is potentially, you don't have to put that in your deck. And what Rakdos definitely is strong at is destruction. I can burn you, I can destroy your creatures. And so I think that is the main strength of Rakdos.
Rakdos is the pain color because black likes to do whatever it needs to do to get what it wants. So hurting yourself, hurting your opponents, drawing cards, destroying things. Red is the impulsive color. So when you put those together, you just get this destructive kind of, I'm going to ping everything including myself. I'm going to hurt myself to draw cards. I'm going to punch you with 10 damage. I'm going to throw all my creatures at you and they all die, but I don't really care.
Yeah, and so I think the Rakdos player at the table is always going to be... he's going to be unpredictable because you don't know what's in his hand and you don't know what kind of nefarious, crazy stuff he can muster up.
They're pretty fun at parties.
Yeah, but it's also someone that you want to look out for because next thing you know, you have a bunch of like 6/6 flying demons coming at you, or dragons are flying at you, or just anything really.
Or they play a board wipe and everyone dies.
Yeah, and then they recur stuff out of their grave.
No, I mean like literally everyone dies because of all the damage from everything dying.
Yeah, and so I think that's what Rakdos is good at. I think Rakdos definitely has a way to get creatures on the board.
I think Rakdos is like you were saying, the playstyle is kind of like a ticking time bomb with a self-destruct button attached to it. Where Rakdos can just kind of throw stuff on the board and either overrun you with a bunch of stuff that really doesn't care if it lives or dies because you're just going to either get more or you want them to die. Yeah. Or you just say, no one gets to have anything. Blow your crap up.
Let's destroy the lands.
Yeah, let's destroy the lands. Let's... everyone can draw cards and then discard cards. Everyone can,
And I think that's where the weakness of Rakdos comes in. Is Rakdos is very resource intensive. You need to have mana to do the things that you want to do. I need to hold up mana for Myrrh or for my bacon to a pie.
I think it has also a similar weakness to like Golgari, in that black as a color likes to have recursion, and when it's in Rakdos colors, if you're playing that strategy with like, for example, the new Rakdos commander Jury, or with Judith, then you rely on a death strategy a lot, where you want your stuff to kill, like aristocrats. It's like playing Orzov, but more aggressive. Mm-hmm. And that has a weakness in the fact that Grave Hate just dumps on your deck.
Yeah, and I think a card draw problem kind of exists in the fact that in Rakdos colors, I can't draw a card other than like normal draws without paying a price. I'm either going to pay life to draw cards, I'm going to have to sack creatures to draw cards, I'm going to have to discard cards to draw cards. And so I think at that moment, Rakdos is kind of... It's tough to get advantage over people when I'm playing cards to destroy creatures or I have to discard cards to draw cards.
But also, if you build your deck right, I think that those disadvantages do become advantages in a sense. Like, if I'm playing a deck that wants to recur things in Rakdos, and I play Faithless Looting and I discard 2 really good creatures, then that's great for me. I mean, that's advantage. It just, when you don't have anything, like Jason was saying, then you're at a loss for everything, and you're setting yourself behind. The other weakness I think that Rakdos really struggles with, not as much anymore, but it's enchantment removal. Previously, the only enchantment removal that Rakdos had were very cost inefficient, like Scour from Existence, Universal Solvent, Unstable Obelisk.
And even those aren't Rakdos.
Yeah, and even those aren't like Rakdos cards. And that was kind of one of the things that made the color combo struggle a little bit. Because if you're playing against, I don't know, Auras, for example, or someone plays a Sylvan Library or a Rhystic Study or a Smothering Tithe, and you just can't do anything about it. You just kind of have to sit there and go, do I pay for it or not? Or do I just deal with it as it stays there? Or do I wait till someone else deals with it? But I mean, to be fair, if I'm playing Rakdos, no one's going to really make a deal with me unless they want to absolutely destroy everything. So it's going to be kind of difficult to deal with that kind of stuff. But as of recent, we got Feed the Swarm, which fits the Rakdos concept of paying life, taking a cost to do something, but it destroys an enchantment. So
step in the right direction? ?
It's a step I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, what do you think we should do about fixing this color if we were to fix anything?
I think, like, I understand that Rakdos has a direction as the chaos color, but I feel like a lot of the decks kind of try to not be that. I feel like if I'm building a Rakdos deck, for example, if I'm building Anya Falcon Wrath, the goal of my deck is to be very linear and to win a certain way. And so I feel like kind of the chaos that Rakdos is kind of lost. Maybe that's just a flavor thing for me.
So like a tug in identity, like an identity crisis a little bit?
Exactly.
I mean, sort of. I think that I don't necessarily see Rakdos as just the chaos color. I think if any of the colors would be the chaos color, it'd be either Izzet or Rakdos. However, I think Rakdos has a little bit of a, to me at least, goes a little bit more in the I don't know how to put it. I guess just enjoying every moment of every card, no matter what it is, until you die. I mean, as opposed to just like, oh, we're just going to screw everything up. More of a, I'm just going to play this, and I don't really care what it does to me or what it does to you.
Watch the world burn.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the world burn as opposed to chaos. That's how I feel about the color combo, so I think that's where, like, with Anji, or Anya, or however you want to pronounce it, I see that deck as being I'm burning my own resources by discarding cards, but I'm using that as my advantage. It is still linear, and I agree with you on that, though. Mm-hmm. But we have gotten really good Rakdos commanders in, like, Judith, for example, or what's his name? Greven. Mm-hmm. Greven is a really good example of a Rakdos commander where it wants to hit hard. You're paying a price by sacking creature and losing life, but you're also just drawing cards and really punching people for a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they could do. I mean, I don't think that Rakdos needs more enchantment removal. I think that is a obvious weakness of the color combo, but it has a few things. Maybe one more.
Yeah.
But
not enough that you're drawing it every game, but you have a chance of getting it.
Options.
Yeah.
And while you're watching the world burn, I think that maybe they're again in that same problem. I think that there should be more. There is some diversity in Rakdos commanders, but I think there should be more.
Yeah, I agree that there's probably like 6 or 7 good Rakdos commanders that people play, and the rest are kind of just like there's either a commander that does the thing that commander does better,
or you add a color to it for a different commander.
Exactly.
Because I think like Zancha is a really good example of a good diverse commander. It plays towards that chaos element while still giving you advantage.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with Anya or Anji. Anyaji.
No.
But yeah, so that's our opinion, right?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Chaos. Bet you didn't see that coming.
All right, so for my next color combination.
Ban Oko.
Okay, so for my next color
combination. Ban Uro.
Okay, so for my next color.
Ban the growth spiral.
Combination is Simic.
I'm out of gas.
And the Simic combination is. I like to think of it as similar thematically to Izzet, but instead of it being like making inventions and that kind of stuff, it's all about bioengineering.
Yeah.
And that's how it is structured lore-wise, thematically, the playstyle, etc.
I'm going to make the cool thing.
And you get to be really creative. Simic is a very strong color combination, and it has always been a strong color combination.
You sure about that?
Yeah, yeah, especially from that intro. I don't think even in other formats, it's just the worst color combination.
Yeah, it needs all the help it can get.
But the strengths are pretty much all over the place because green has artifact and enchantment removal and ramp, and blue has card draw and counter spells. So you get a lot of different deck building choices in the color combo. You can go for really big creatures.
Big stompy boys that can't be blocked.
Yes. You can go for a bunch of little boys or girls or creatures.
That can't be blocked.
Maybe. But that just kind of swarm the board. You can go for +1/1 counters.
That can't be blocked.
I mean, okay, fair enough. But you get all of the kind of fun, playful stuff. So you get stuff like we mentioned, Uro, which ramps you and draws a card, Oko, which just takes care of something on the board or steals something or just is annoying, but I love him. Oko is my favorite. Or Growth Spiral, which ramps you and draws a card. And it just has that flexibility that a lot of color combos don't have, in that it can run the strongest blue cards and run the strongest green staples, and just that alone can make the deck playable. And I think that that's one of the issues with the deck too, is that it is just always going to be a strong deck, but I feel like to a certain extent, because there are so many good staples, there isn't as much deck flexibility.
You're going to want to put all the good and blue green cards no matter what the commander is or what the win con is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to throw in my Sylvan Library and my Rhystic Study and my Cyclonic Rift and my Nissa Who Shakes the World in any blue-green deck. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, or Hydroid Krasis. Or the thing is that's crazy is how many cards we can list that are all like in recent standard.
Yeah.
You know, Uro, Oko, Growth Spiral, Nissa Who Shakes the World, Hydroid Krasis, Kinnan.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many cards that fit into those color combo that just make it good. And I think the problem with Simic is partially that it's too strong, but I don't think that they should like make it weaker. I think it's just hard to not make cards that are good in this color combo.
I also feel like in a sense Simic is predictable. Like obviously I don't know that you're gonna have a counter spell in your hand or whatever, but it's like I kind of know it doesn't really matter what you're playing. I kind of know what your deck is designed to do, and if I have ways to stop it, I have ways to stop it.
Yeah, we have a Simic player in our play group. You know who you are. But it's kind of like the commander kind of tells what the deck is for the most part. If I'm playing Azuri, the experience counter Azuri, then I'm playing a bunch of creatures and I'm putting counters on things. I might be playing Infect, but that's a whole nother story. If I'm playing Edric, I'm playing a bunch of 1/1 evasive creatures, or just evasive creatures in general.
I'm gonna draw some cards.
If I'm playing, what's another Simic commander? Arixmathes. I'm playing big mana stuff.
And I'm going to get some infinite mana.
Yeah, or I'm going infinite. So, Simic just has that versatility, and it makes... But the commanders do kind of tell the tale, because if I'm playing... if you're playing, like, Rashmi, then I'm going to be playing a lot of spells that have pretty large CMCs, and I'm going to be getting a lot of advantage out of it so that I can just play cards off the top of my deck. If I'm playing Tatiova, then it's a landfall deck. If I'm playing Vannifar, then the game's over.
But,
more or less. There's a little bit of predictability in that sense. So I think that what's tough is I think the issue with Simic is like what we mentioned, where you're just going to put the best cards from each color in there. Whereas like if you looked at like previously mentioned the Rakdos deck, there are some cards that I like, but they don't really fit the theme that I'm going for, or they're very specific and I don't want to run them, so I won't put them in. Whereas in Simic, it's just so flexible, I'm just going to throw them in.
Yeah.
So, and we saw that with cards like, of course, Nissa Who Shakes the World, Veil of Summer.
For sure.
And I think that if Simic wants to diversify, they need to make more specific Simic cards and kind of give the color more of a distinctive identity in other deck building concepts, I guess.
Without making busted cards. Please don't make any more busted cards.
Or if you make a busted card, make it actually like have a hoop to jump through, or a synergistic piece, as opposed to like this card just wins.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I would do to Simic, is I would probably just tune cards in the future to be less of a all-around staple and more of a, I need to build around this card. Because if you look at Standard, people really weren't building around Uro. People weren't really building around Hydroid Krasis or Veil of Summer.
They're just nice to have.
They're just good to have. If you can play the color combo, you throw them in. So that's my advice on that color combo.
So for our next guild, we have the Green-White Guild, Selesnya. Selesnya has a couple different win cons, but I think the most popular one is definitely tokens. I'm going to make a lot of tokens. I'm going to buff all my tokens somehow. I'm going to maybe gain some life in the process. And I'm just going to swing with a mass army of elves, elephants, kind of anything
soldiers
that you name of. Yeah. And so I think what Selesnya's goal is, how can I get as many creatures out as I can, as fast as I can?
I think there's a reason why it's called the Conclave.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Jason said, you want a lot of creatures. You want to make a lot of creatures. Kind of have a collective effort, if you will, of cards that just populate.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely one of the Selesnya mechanics.
And I think that also it has really good color combo, like synergy, in that white does care a lot. White has a little bit of a split identity of being a control color, but also being a token or a weenie color. Mm-hmm. Whereas green also likes tokens, but also likes big stuff or ramp. And that's where stuff like Convoke comes in, where you have a bunch of little things and then you just cheat something really big in and you throw it at someone. And so there's that. So I think that it's strong and that it has the right removal.
Yeah, and it has the ramp to do the big flashy things.
It does the thing.
Yeah, and so I think Celestia, I would honestly say, is probably one of the more well-rounded colors.
Yeah, I think it's pretty just all around well built and well designed. Mm-hmm. Because white has creature removal, green and white have enchantment and artifact removal. It has a lot of creatures that can jump block. It can play big creatures. It's kind of flexible in that sense.
It can slow opponents down by taxing them with the various white things.
But also, I think reactionary-wise, I think it's not a very good color for that.
Yeah. I think it is one of the worst. I guess anything without blue is not very good at being proactive and stopping your opponents from doing the things. It's only, okay, you have the thing, now I'm going to stop you.
Yeah, or like, I feel like the most prominent, because generally if it's a creature-based theme, you don't want a board wipe.
Correct.
So I feel like Selesnya kind of does what Boros does too, in that, I have a board, but instead of destroying the board and getting rid of your things, I'm just going to make my things unkillable, like indestructible or something, and hope that I can kill you next turn with them.
And that's why I also think a lot of the like group huggy type decks often use Selesnya colors, if not like more colors. But like I'm talking specifically about Selvala, the Selesnya Selvala. It's that like I don't really want to hurt anybody. I just want to try and be better.
Yeah, the Selesnya color combo are the peace loving, nature loving.
I'm gonna tree hug. No offense to all you tree huggers out there. You guys are great.
I love Selesnya, but I think that it's tough because I don't think that I don't know how to get this point out, but there are also other strategies in Selesnya that aren't tokens, but ultimately they result in tokens.
Yeah.
Like not Sharona. Siona. I was thinking of the song. Sorry. But
my Siona.
Yeah, exactly. But green white also has Karametra. So you do get like an Enchantress theme in there too that sneaks its way into decks where you can kind of go Aura Voltron or just enchantments that are good and get that group hug on, but most of the time you're going to end up with tokens in one way or another.
Yeah, and I don't really... I guess what I'm trying to say is like a lot of other colors, they're going to do this play where it's like, okay, I win. Whereas kind of Selesnya's goal is to just amass a big army. And yeah, there's ways to get like infinite of stuff in Selesnya. But I feel like Selesnya's game plan is a lot slower in the fact that I'm going to play a big army. And
Overwhelming Stampede.
Yeah, and then I'm going to try and just kill you.
Crater Hoof.
Whereas other cards are like, all right, well, I have everything, you have nothing, game over.
Yeah, or I have an infinite combo that just burns you to death.
Yeah. And so I think that's where Selesnya kind of falls short, is ways to definitively win the game, with the exception of like Overwhelming Stampede, Crater Hoof, Triumph.
Yeah, because I mean, like having one big creature is cool and all, but having like a bunch of little creatures that become big creatures is always, a winning play. Mm-hmm. Unless the Dimir player or the Rakdos player or the Orzov player says no you don't, and destroys all your stuff. And I think that you're right on that. I think that white and green might need another win con. I mean, there are like stuff like infinites and like Siona that do win you the game if you play it right. But
I think one thing I would add to Selesnya, and maybe this would be a little busted, but I would like to see some life gain synergy specifically out of the green color, because green definitely has ways of gaining life. There's lots of things that green can do to gain life on its own.
And I feel like Selesnya is very like there is a sub-theme of life gain in there.
Yeah, especially like a Johnny's Welcome and stuff
Archangel
like, and the
Thune.
Soul Sisters.
Archangel Thune.
Yeah, and like, I feel like that would kind of help round it out, is to make kind of both colors work together in that sense. And it would just kind of add another commander, because there's not really any Selesnya life gain commanders.
I mean, there's Tristani.
Yeah. But that also is tokens.
But it's also playing bigger stuff. The deck is big stuff that has a life game sub-theme. And it's not a prominent theme. So, no, I agree with you on that. I also think that there might need some more, a little bit more diversity in recent years for Selesnya commanders. I mean, we just got Yasharn, which is like the Hate Bears commander. Or like Gaddock Teague is like a Hate Bear commander that Jason seems to love so much. But I think we need more diversity in the color combo because, like we said, it's a lot about tokens, and if it isn't, then it has a sub-theme that either makes tokens or gains you life. And I think it needs at least one thing that throws off a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, remember...
Just take my money. Just take my money. It's fine. I don't want to die.
Death and taxes, baby. Death and taxes. So our last one is Orzov, which, as we kind of explained...
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes. The Orzov color combination very much cares about removal around gaining something off of extortion. Extort as a mechanic. A lot of the cards you play in Orzov kind of explain a little bit of how they play as a color combo. Like Smothering Tithe is inherently an Orzov card that gets played in every other color combo. But Smothering Tithe, Pitiless Plunderer, anything with Extort.
Yeah.
So Orzov as a color combo has a little bit of a control-y actually a lot of a control-y aspect.
A very much control-y
aspect. But less of a blue, like, I'm tricky aspect and more of a blatant, like, give me your thing or I'm killing your thing. You're going to pay this or I'm going to get this. And so Orzov has a lot of strong removal. Some of the best removal in the game, actually.
Yeah.
Because it has white removal in, like, board wipes and creature removal, and has black removal in that you can just kill a thing or kill a thing to gain you something. And then you also have a lot of the black-white cards like Vindicate to just get rid of anything, Anguished Unmaking to get rid of anything, Merciless Eviction to board wipe anything, and exile it too. So Orzov tends to have a couple main strong themes, one of which, if I haven't said it enough, Death and Taxes.
Mm-hmm.
2 is Aristocrats, where, you kill your own things, gain life. 3 is just life gain as a whole, just straight up life gain. And then I would say that there's also an element of Reanimator.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And the thing is with Orzov is all of those things don't necessarily, like, disagree with each other, which means you can throw them all in one deck. And I think it doesn't even make the deck worse by doing that, which is a strong thing, but at the same time, there are things that Orzov struggles with.
I think in terms of commander, Orzov is really well designed in the fact that, like, your commanders kind of build the deck for you. Like, if I'm going to play...
Case of Karlov.
Yeah, I'm going to build Aristocrats. I'm going to sack my stuff, and I'm going to bring them back.
Or tokens.
Yeah. And so I think... And there are plenty of other commanders, like Ailey, I'm going to gain a bunch of life, that kind of make Orzov decks really good in the fact that each deck does have a set path.
Like Campbell.
Yeah.
Or like the soup.
And so I think in that regard, it's Orzov is good at what it's good at.
And it's also not like we mentioned with Simic, I also don't think that necessarily the Orzov commanders tell exactly how you're going to play, because it does have a lot of pieces, like I mentioned earlier, that you can just throw in that are a little bit off of the path. Like, I could be playing an Ailey life gain, sacrifice deck, but I could focus way more on the fact that it's a 1-mana sack outlet rather than the life gain, and have stuff like Dictate of Erebos or Grave Pact, which should go in the deck anyways, but focus and hone in on that theme. And my opponents may be expecting a little bit of both, when really I'm just going harshly into one direction.
I think something that Orzov really struggles with is kind of impactful creatures. I see Orzov as a lot of my creatures are pawns, or they do things if something happens, whereas the other colors kind of have creatures that I'm going to play them and they're going to have an immediate impact. And I think Orzov misses the mark on a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, you do have angels and demons. You have, like...
and vampires, too.
And vampires, too. So you get stuff like Avacyn. You get stuff like... I'm trying to think of a really good demon. Well, it's banned, so I can't talk about it. I was going to talk about Grizzlebrand, but that's banned. For a good reason.
Grizzlebrand. Haha!
Nice. But I think for the most part, you're right on that. But also, we haven't gotten like a really interesting Orzov commander recently. I mean, we've got two that were cool, and they fit exactly what we talked about in Lisa and Thales, right? And both of those are great. Thales is a token commander in Orzov, which we haven't really had a dedicated token commander. We've had like Teysa Karlov that cares about tokens, or like the old Teysa that makes tokens.
Alendra makes tokens.
But we haven't had like one that cares about making more tokens. Those ones are, like Jason said, you have to generally kill it or, you know, do some loophole to jump through it. Whereas Lisa or Thales is just kind of make tokens, you get tokens.
Yeah.
And Lisa is kind of like Campbell in that it's a control-y deck where tax doesn't really matter for you.
But it matters for your opponents.
But it matters for your opponents because you're gaining a ton of life to counterbalance out you losing life, and everyone loses life, and you just kind of tax everyone out until they die.
So I guess kind of along the same lines, what we would do to fix Orzov, if I'm right, is just make more creatures.
Or diversity.
Yeah, and so I think it's just lacking a lot of plays that matter if you're behind. Like, if you're kind of behind in an Orzov deck, other than, like, resetting the game with a board wipe, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, it feels really bad when I'm playing, like, Teysa Karlov, and I've got two aristocrats out, and I've got an engine going, and then someone board wipes and then exiles my graveyard. It's like, okay, well, now what?
It's going to take me forever to get that back.
Yeah, because you do have card draw in black. You have really good card draw, but because you're not going to be hurting that bad from the life loss, but it's setting that up again. It's establishing yourself as a threat and then holding it. It's very Orzov-y, or making it so that no one can become more threatening than you.
Hold the monarchy.
Pretty much. I mean, so I think that you're right. I think Orzov needs either some more diversity in play patterns or diversity in top end of creatures, or even just top end in general, spell wise too.
Yeah,
because I feel like top end Orzov spells are just drain someone until they're dead or kill everything, and I think that there could definitely be more fun Orzov top ends.
I'm gonna take all your creatures,
like an insurrection effect.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, but out of graveyard or something. Or
better Staxy type stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, we've gotten pieces like that do go into these decks, but they're not very diverse in how they play. They would also go into the same, like, the piece, it's kind of like Simic in the sense that the pieces that would go in Orzov that are in the top end that are good are just good. You could put it in a Rakdos deck. You could put it in a Selesnya deck. You could put it in a Boros deck. But you would never do that because Boros doesn't have ramp. But, you know. So, I don't know. We'll see. I have to see how they touch the color pie with black and white in ramp and in enchantment removal and that kind of stuff and interesting play lines. Because if they do give white some ramp or I don't think black needs ramp.
No, black's...
I don't even really think white needs that much more help. But if they do, it definitely affects this color combo monumentally.
I agree. And now it's time to pull from the knowledge pool. Tips to make Commander games more fun and more healthy.
Alright, so I'm going to play a Forest for turn. I'm going to tap 2 and play Lotus Cobra. Can I redo that? I meant to get the landfall trigger.
This is something that's very highly debated in the world of Magic, especially in casual formats, is the art of the takesy-backsy, as our playgroup likes to call it. One thing our playgroup likes to do is kind of, if someone messes up and makes the wrong line of play, or like...
If it's minor, like if the result's going to end the same...
Yeah, and like they mess up the order, we usually let them do it. Now, if it's like a game-ending mistake, or like...
Like, an example of this would be, like, let's say I'm playing Simic, right? Like, we talked about Simic having access to all the good cards. Let's say I tapped to play a really good creature. Like, I tapped a lot of mana for Hydroid Krasis, and I left a blue and a green up. And for some reason, I think I have a negate in my hand, but it's actually a counterspell. Like, the counterspell, named counterspell.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason plays something that's going to end the game. I can't takesy-backsy the way I tap my lands at that point, because I already passed, and my play would change the outcome of the game.
So yeah, I would recommend that that you guys should have a discussion with your playgroup, have a debate, do whatever, a healthy debate. Don't like yell at people's throats.
Yell at people,
but ask them, like, is this okay? Because I think it makes games more fun for us. Because if I make a really stupid decision that, like...
screws you out of the game.
That, like, is obvious, and I should have known it.
That's not going to be fun for anyone.
I think it's fair that I should be allowed, like, a kind of a do-over. Obviously, if you're playing, like, a professional tournament, don't ask for this. That's never going to happen in a million years.
We kind of do, like, one per person per game.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we get it. People are tired. People want to just... hang out and play Magic. It's not that big of a deal. Unless it's something really stupid.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm, like, in turn, like, 25 of, like, a 4-hour game, I'm gonna make a mistake.
Yeah. But, I mean, and you don't even have to worry about it too much. If someone asks and you guys really can't make a decision, you can always roll a d20, flip a coin.
Yeah.
Make it easy on yourself.
So, yeah, have that discussion and, have some fun, guys.
Have some fun.
So before we pass the turn to you, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube or Spotify if you're watching us on the audio version of this podcast.
Yes, watching us on the audio
If you're
version.
listening to us, listening, who cares?
Jason's got his gruel brain.
We'll also throw our Instagram and Twitter links in the description. We've been posting. We've been pretty active on Instagram and Twitter lately.
We've been trying our best, especially during, of course, it's the holiday season, and it's been kind of difficult. Everything's getting kind of busy, and it's been, everyone's in lockdown, so we've been trying to do our best to stay active out there.
And yeah, don't forget about our 100 subscriber YouTube challenge. That is, hopefully, we're going to reach that goal eventually, where Nick will eat a copy of Bake Into a Pie.
I'm going to do it. I promise.
So yeah, Nick, what are you doing in Magic lately?
Well, I'm working on Jason's deck that he's getting for Christmas. And
spoiler alert for the next episode, you'll hear about it.
We're gonna have some fun with that, yeah. Because Jason already got mine early, so I'm putting together his, and it's gonna be a fun time. And yeah, how about you?
So yeah, I've already built your Christmas deck, and I am working on Obeka for my personal collection of decks. I was trying to figure out who I wanted to build out of Commander Legends. Didn't really get a whole lot of inspiration about my pulls, but I decided I'm going to roll with Obeka and do some end-of-turn shenanigans, even though Obeka does have blue.
Yeah. Nice that you mentioned it at the end of turn. But I prefer to pronounce it Obeka specifically because it rhymes with Topeka, but that's my opinion.
Nick is randomly in love with Kansas. All you Kansas folks out there, if you're a fan of Kansas,
if you want me
like
to
this
eat
video, subscribe.
If you want me to eat a Bake Into a Pie, we got you. All right. We'll talk to you next time.
On Untap
Upkeep.
I tap Obeka.
All right. So, what packs do we have today, Jason?
Return to Ravnica.
Pretty thematic, considering we're talking about Ravnica guilds again. So let's see here what we get.
I got nothing.
I got a pack. Oh man. Feels good.
Dude, yeah.
Hey, we both got white cards.
Nice.
Right.
Let me know when you get to the uncommons.
Man, there's some cards in here that are just overcosted. It's crazy.
Ooh. Alright, I'm ready.
Yeah. Alright.
Oak Street Innkeeper.
Fairy Imposter.
Azorius Keyrune.
Rakdos Keyrune. Keyrune time.
Blood Fray Giant.
Gobbling Ooze.
Alright, ready?
3, 2, 1.
You kind of got shit.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, I already have this land. Ding! I got Grove of the Guardian.
Alright. I got Lotleth Troll.
You could have trolled me by saying like, "Oh, you got a land! Oh my goodness!"
Yeah, but then you said, "Oh, you got." Then I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm just gonna let that one go." But you know, that's what you get for these packs. I mean, no shocklands today.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you next time.